Howdy folks, and welcome back to the channel. You can see we are in the shop today. We finally got the shop cleared out enough so that we can at least get the bench cleared off so we can do some work. Some of you can remember the last time we worked on the parts 151. We were able to get the engine running by squirting carburetor cleaner through the carburetor, or not carburetor cleaner, but starting fluid through the carburetor. That's not the way we really want to try to run that thing. I want to run it a little bit longer than that. And so we finally found the box of spare carburetors. So we're going to go through these today. We're going to put a soft kit. We've got a soft kit here. We're going to go ahead and pick the best one of the bunch here to freshen up. We're not going to do a complete rebuild on it. We're just going to freshen it up. And then hopefully once this weather clears up and warms up a little bit more, we'll be able to bolt this carburetor onto the parts 151 and get it fired up and get it running. So let's get to it. Okay, we're going to take a look at the carburetors that we have. This one here is this is for an A2. You can see it's got the fitting here for the emissions, and so I don't think we're going to use this one here. This one here, it's a good rebuildable core, I'm sure, but it's filthy, and it's also for an A2. So we're not going to use that one either. This one's also for an A2. Its manufacturing date was 1978. So that leaves us with this one here. This one here is has a manufacture date of January of 1966. So this one is going to be the one that we're going to use. So first thing we got to do is we need to get it now. Actually, let's go ahead and start here. Somebody has already removed the diaphragm for the accelerator pump. I believe this is the accelerator pump here. And so let's go ahead and pull this off. Everything is all loose here, so we don't have to use tools for this. And yeah, it's fairly clean inside there. So let's go get some screwdrivers and some of the tools we're going to need to go ahead and pull the bowl off so that we can check the inside of it and set the floats. And we're going to go get the TM for all the specifications to set the floats. Alright folks, this is the manual that we're using. It's a TM 9-2320-218-34. This is the direct support and general support maintenance manual. This is the manual that's going to give you more of the detailed instructions on how to deal with individual components. And you can see this one here is dated January in 1972. So this is going to have the correct information for this particular carburetor. So we're going to go into the table of contents here, and we're going to find the section on the carburetor here and go to page 5-17, which deals with the Zenith carburetors. I do not have any of the Holley carburetors. Oop, a little bit too far. Okay. Now that is the exploded diagram of the Zenith carburetor, and this is going to give us the instructions that we need. Okay. Alright, the first section of it is just giving kind of an overhaul instructions. It's basically saying this is the instructions for this particular model carburetor, which is a Ordinance number 109-39511, which it says right there. And this is generally how most of these TMs work, is they'll go ahead and give you, you know, where to locate the instructions for, you know, removing the carburetor from the vehicle, which is in a different TM, and things like that. And so, you know, just basically inspect everything, and then it's saying first operation is to pull this this cover, these 4 screws, and the diaphragm that should have been there out. And then it's saying to go ahead and pull this piece off here. So this is a 13/16 wrench, and none of this stuff should be overly tight. Some of this stuff is going to be a little tight, and we're going to take a look at it and inspect it. We've got a little screen here. We've got that gasket which we're going to toss, and we're going to pull this screen off of here. And of course the screwdriver I have is too big, so we'll go get another little screwdriver for that. And that's basically the fuel inlet. We're going to go ahead and inspect that to go ahead and make sure we don't have a bunch of crud built up in there, which we don't. There's a little bit of junk in there. We're also going to pull this little angle fitting out, because this is not what I'm going to be using. Basically, we're going to be using a fuel filter with an 1/8 inch pipe thread that goes right into that. So that, I don't even know why that was on there. So the next thing we're going to do is pull the 6 screws that hold the fuel bowl onto the throttle body. Six of those, and then slowly and try to ease this off of here. And you can take a look down at the bottom of that bowl, and that is actually pretty dadgum clean. So we're going to, we got to get a punch and knock that pin out of there that holds the float on. Everything is looking really pretty clean in here, but we are going to go ahead and replace, yeah, because this gasket's hard as a board. Let me get a punch, and we'll get that float knocked out of there. Okay, we got our punch now. It's a little, I don't know what the size, 3/32 punch, and the smallest hammer you got. You don't need an awful lot of swinging power to go ahead and get this knocked loose. Now, if you look on them, I don't know how well you can see that there, but this end of it has got serrations on it. So you want to drive it from this direction out the other way, because this end does not have the serrations on it. Just a couple of little taps and it comes right out. Hopefully this is going to focus in on this. I don't know. And you can pull that off, and then this gasket can come off, and then your needle and seat can come off. Now, normally a carburetor kit is going to come with a new needle and seat, and this one's not looking real good. These kits do not come with a needle and seat, and it's this particular part number here. So you have to, you know, when you're rebuilding this thing, you're going to have to go ahead If you get these kits, you're going to have to get a needle and seat as well. So we're going to go ahead and pull. We need a bigger screwdriver. We're going to go ahead and pull the seat out. Come on. You got to be careful with these so you don't end up screwing them up. Especially if you did not get a new needle and seat. We're going to have to try to either reuse this one, or I have some parts of some other used ones that we may have to use. Well, that one doesn't look too bad, but the tip of the needle doesn't look all that great. Okay, we don't have to pull any of this linkage loose because we're not pulling any of the throttle plates out. These carburetors are extremely simple carburetors. So the next thing we're going to do is get a can of carburetor cleaner, and we're going to go through and clean everything up. We'll go ahead and pull this out so that we can make sure that this is all cleaned up in here, and then we'll get some carburetor cleaner and hose out all of the different ports in here and blow them out, make sure that everything is good, is is cleaned out. Okay, this is going to take a 5/8 wrench to go ahead and get this pulled off of here. And like I said, none of this stuff should be on here all that tight. If it's really tight, then you've got some problems. So we're also going to pull this needle out. This is the wrong idle screw for this carburetor. I have no idea where the heck this thing came from, but we've got a small box of parts here for some other carburetors that I've pulled apart before, and I know I have a spare needle and idle adjust needle with a spring on it. So we've got a 5-gallon bucket over here. That I'll be spraying, when I spray this stuff off, I'll be spraying it into. Normally I would do this outside, but it's 28 degrees outside. I'm not going to take this outside. I'm not going to open up my big door to do it. So for you OSHA violator complainers, please keep it to yourselves. I know that this ain't the right way to do it, but this is the way it's got to be done right now. So, alright. So when we go do this, we're going to want to just kind of spray down through the venturis here. Spray this section out. We've got this little port here, and spray that one out. Make sure, try to go ahead and get as much of the carbon deposits around the throttle plate cleaned out as you can. It's not going to be real easy doing, basically doing just a refresh on it like this, but do the best you can. This is the emulsion tube, and we've got a few other little spots you want to spray out. Any little ports that you see, just go ahead and get in there and spray them out real good. This section here, the fuel inlet, is real important, because the fuel inlet is where you're going to have the most little corruption and crapola that you're going to find. You're also going to want to make sure that the gasket surface is cleaned off real well. And then once you get done, I knew I had a rag over here somewhere. Once you get done spraying everything out and wiping everything down, like I said, this is not a real super in-depth carburetor rebuild. And these carburetors are really simple carburetors. So you don't have an awful lot of real complex issues with these things. It's the idle air bypass. And then once you get done, with spraying them out, go in with compressed air and blow everything out. That will go ahead and make sure that you don't have any carburetor cleaning and things like that in any of the ports. So once you get done with this, once you get done with the main body section, do the same thing. You're going to want to pull the main jet here out. Pull that out of there. You also have this jet. Make sure that you don't lose this thing, because this will fall out if you're not careful. If you're not paying attention, it'll hit the ground and then it'll disappear somewhere. Oh. And then you're also going to want to pull this little valve out. And then go in and do the same thing. Spray through all the ports. Make sure you don't have any crud. In any of the ports. And this carburetor is actually missing a main jet. Sure enough. It's a good thing we didn't try to... Yeah, the main jet normally goes right in there. And it is missing that. That would have made it run a little rich. Well, fortunately, I think we've got another main jet in my box of spares. Okay, we've got our little box of parts here that we've dumped out onto the onto the table. Some throttle plates, some choke plates, another fitting. So what we are going to do is we are going to find us a main jet. So at any rate, we've got a main jet there. We're going to replace this little valve here. This is the one that came out of it. We're just going to replace these things with stuff that I know is good. These came out of good running carburetors, And so we're going to use that. We're going to use this piece here, which is the this one here is it's according to the manual, this is a tube assembly. That's one of the jets. And then we have one of these jets, which is probably a jet assembly, is what it's called. And then we've got our main jet here. And then we have an idle adjust screw and the spring that goes on it. And then we're going to take a look at our needle and seat assemblies that we have and find the best looking one of the bunch. Now, this is all leftover parts from a complete overhaul that I did on the carburetor on private parts right now. That's on private parts right now. And it has been running without any real major adjustments for 2.5 years now, I believe. So we're going to go ahead and open this package up. I do not recall where I got these gasket sets from, so I apologize. I bought them several years ago, but I do not recall where I got them from. So all of this stuff has been cleaned up. I've had this stuff soaking before. So, and this one's got a good gasket on it. Okay. The next one is the main jet, which this carburetor was missing completely. I know that Chuck had expressed some real aggravation about not being able to get carburetors to run right. The last time I talked to him, you know, obviously before he passed, and he was having a lot of real issues getting his carburetor to run right. And I'll bet you it's because it was missing a main jet. That very well may have been the problem. Okay, and the next, okay, according to the book, there is no gas. This is a tapered seat, so there's no gasket on this. Big screwdriver. Okay. Now, we're going to go ahead and put the needle and seat in. The new needle and seat. And we're going to set the floats. Now we're going to set the needle in there. Now Okay, setting the floats. So we have to go ahead, and this is real important, you have to set the gasket back onto the carburetor, and you've got to set it on the correct way, okay, before you put the axle. And bear in mind, remember which way that this was driven out, and drive it back in opposite of the way it was driven out. And what I do is I just kind of push it in there just to go ahead and make sure, you know, I don't drive it in there because I may have to go ahead and pull it out to go ahead and bend the tab. And then the you've got to go ahead and set it so that the measure the distance between the gasket and the tips of the float furthest from the axle. That's these sections, these tips right here, and the distance should be 3/32 of an inch plus or minus 1/32. Now you've got, see my little scale here, so we're going to pick it up and check it, and it is measuring about about 3/16 of an inch. This is the reason why we don't drive that in hard all the way, because in order to adjust that, we have to get on here with a pair of pliers, and we have to adjust this, bend it down a little bit. Whatever you do, do not press down on the floats to get your float level set right, because what that's going to do is that's going to end up bending messing up the tip of your seat. And that looks like that's measuring right about 4/32, which is 1/8 of an inch, which is just a little bit, it's technically it's within tolerance, but I want to go ahead and tweak it just a little bit more, get it set just right. Alright, that's right on the money there. And then you flip it over and measure the drop, and it should be 3/8 of an inch, which is 12/32. And that's about right there. So we're good to go there. Now we can go ahead and take our float bowl, and we put the main jet back in, accelerator jet, which is that one right there. I believe number 46 is the accelerator jet. 46. Oh no, 46 is this long jet like this. At any rate, we basically put the rest of the bowl back together there, and then we flip her upside down and put the do it sideways, because as you can see, this jet just drops right out of there. So you don't want that jet just dropping right out of there, so make sure you get this set on there nice and flat. And put the screws back in. You don't need to over tighten any of this stuff. You want it, what I do is I bring it up tight and then just give it just another little twist. There we go. And now the next thing that goes back on is going to be this with the diaphragm. And I'm not 100% certain. Oh, yeah, I am 100% certain. Okay, when you put this back on, I know that somebody had a question on one of the 151 forums as to which way this goes on. The spring goes into the cap here. You never want your spring to be seating on the rubber here. So if there's any questions or if you have any doubts, take the spring, put it on both sides, and if you've got one side here where the spring is contacting the rubber, that's the wrong way. So you'll go ahead and put it on that way, and then this is the part that's always joyous, is getting the screws started without collapsing everything in on itself. So I generally don't go ahead and tighten everything down perfectly until I have all 4 of the screws started. That way it makes sure that the diaphragm is not getting pinched or otherwise compromised. Now, once you get them all started, then you can go ahead and get them tightened down. And then the last thing you've got is the idle screw. Now, according to the manual here, there's a washer and a little gasket or a little seal. This little seal is tiny, 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 tiny. Don't know if you can see that. Hopefully it focuses in on it. But at any rate, that little gasket goes right there. And I've never found an overwhelming need for the washer. And all of the carburetors that I've torn apart none of them have ever had the washer. Okay, well, we had to find a different needle because the threads were boogered up on the other one that we had. That's the reason why it was trying to make a fool out of me. At any rate, I bring it down till it just seats finger tight, and then back it off 1.5 turns, and that's a good spot I have found to get you started, and then you can go ahead and adjust from there. Now we are going to go ahead and pull this little screen off of here, make sure that there's no offending crud in that screen before we go ahead and throw it back on there. And you see you've got the long screw, you've got this spacer tube, that's important. And there was a little bit of crud on there. We'll clean it up and blow it out. Blow the screen out. If you've got a good fuel filter, a good quality fuel filter, do not buy a Fram filter, please. Then this is just kind of a secondary, you know, deal just in case. I quit using Fram filters 20 years ago. You know, they used to be top notch, and then like a lot of other companies, they get too big, and then they get they get penny pinchers in their accounting department and make a half a cent cut here and a half a cent cut there, and next thing you know, your product's all gone to, yeah. Okay, next thing we got to do is, final thing we've got to do actually, is go ahead and clean this off. And I don't use Teflon tape when I go to seal any of this kind of stuff back up. Teflon tape is, the problem with the Teflon tape that I've had is that, you know, the stuff gets, if you don't nip the tail off real good, it'll get down into where you don't want it to get, and then next thing you know, you got contamination that you don't want down into parts that you don't want it to be in. The other nice thing about this stuff here is that you can back it off or twist it a little bit and it's still going to seal. And the main thing here is that, you know, we want to go ahead and seal and make sure we don't have any dust, really fine dust or dirt particulates getting down into the carburetor. So, at any rate, that's about it. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put this, we're going to put a fuel filter on it and then put it on the Jeep motor and see if we can't get it running, but that'll be for another day. Alright folks, that is basically how I do a refresh on an M151 carburetor. There is nothing fancy about it, there's nothing overly complicated. But you do have to pay attention to details. You've got to pay attention to what the condition of the carburetor is to begin with. If you guys would like to see a complete and total going through of a carburetor that is really, really nasty, leave a comment in the comment section, because I have the carburetor that came off of that motor to begin with, and that thing was bad. I mean, the bowl was just completely full of junk. So if you guys would like to see that, leave a comment down below, and I'll go ahead and put it together. I'll go ahead and get a complete rebuild kit, and so we can go ahead and go through and tear it apart, see whether we can see whether it's even salvageable or not. So, at any rate, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Remember, please, to like, share, and subscribe. The subscriptions really help me getting to the point to where I can do this on a more regular basis than what I've been able to do it so far. So, at any rate, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.